January 10th, 2025 seemed like an ordinary morning. The sun rose over Los Angeles as usual, giving warm rays. My wife Sarah and I usually started the day with a cup of coffee on the terrace, watching our children, 6-year-old Lily and 10-year-old Tommy, play in the yard. But this day was different. The air seemed heavier, and a thin haze of smoke appeared on the horizon. I noticed it, but didn't pay much attention. Fires are not uncommon in Los Angeles. While Sarah was making breakfast, I turned on the news. A reporter was talking about wildfires in the mountains near our neighborhood. The flames were spreading rapidly due to strong winds, and evacuations had already begun in several nearby neighborhoods. But our neighborhood was not mentioned yet. Everything will be fine, I thought. We're far enough away. Towards lunchtime, the smell of smoke became stronger. I went outside, and I felt uneasy. On the northern horizon, I could see thick black smoke rising into the sky. The neighbors had already started to fuss. Someone was loading things into the car. Someone was discussing the situation on the street. I approached Mr. Hayes, our neighbor, and asked him if he had heard anything new. I talked to the police, he said. They are telling us to prepare to evacuate. The flames are spreading faster than they expected. These words made me act. I quickly returned home and told Sarah that we needed to pack. She was a little worried, but like me, she thought it was just a precaution. We started packing our suitcases, documents, some clothes, the kids' toys, medicines, anything that seemed important. Tommy asked, "Dad, are we going to go home?" I tried to stay calm. "Of course, son. We're just going to go somewhere safe for a few days." At 3 p.m., the situation deteriorated dramatically. Police were driving around the neighborhood, urging everyone to leave their homes. The wind picked up, and the smoke became so thick that it was hard to breathe. We quickly got in the car and joined the stream of cars trying to leave the area. The journey, which usually took 10 minutes, turned into an hour-long drag. We soon realized that something was wrong. Our car started making strange noises and then stopped. The engine would not start. Sarah looked at me in horror. "What now?" she asked. I tried to calm her and the kids down, even though I was panicking. We got out of the car and started looking for someone who could help. But most drivers just drove by, not paying attention to us. The flames were already visible on the horizon, and I realized that we had very little time. When I had almost given up hope, I heard the sound of a car pulling up next to me. It was a black SUV. The driver rolled down his window and asked, "Do you need help?" I turned to him and recognized the face I had seen on the screen so many times. It was Keanu Reeves. For a moment, I couldn't believe my eyes. But at that moment, it didn't matter. He invited us to get in the car and said he would take us to a safe place. The children got into the back seat, and Keanu gave them water bottles. Lily stopped crying and started looking at him. She asked him quietly, "Are you an actor?" He smiled. "Yes, but right now I'm just your driver." On the way to the evacuation center, Keanu told the children stories to distract them. His voice was so calm that even I started to feel better. He told us how he once had a similar situation during the filming of a movie when he had to act quickly to save others. We got to the evacuation center in a few hours. There were a lot of people there, families who had lost their homes, volunteers who were distributing food and water. Keanu helped us find a place to stay for the night, and even left his phone number, saying we could contact him if we needed anything. When he left, I still couldn't believe what had happened. Sarah said, "It was an angel sent to us in our darkest moment." That night, I lay on the cot and looked at my children as they slept. They looked peaceful, but I knew that we had difficult days ahead of us. We had lost our home. Our lives had changed forever. But in this chaos, there was one moment of light, a man who did not leave us in trouble. It was only the first day of our new reality, but even then I knew that this story would remain in our hearts forever. On the second day after the fire, we began to realize the scale of the tragedy. The evacuation center where Keanu Reeves brought us was crowded with people who had lost their homes. The atmosphere was tense. Some were crying, some were trying to contact their families, and some were sitting silently hugging their loved ones. We found a place near one of the walls, spreading a blanket that the volunteers had given us. Lily was holding her new teddy bear that Keanu had given her, and Tommy, although he looked calm, wouldn't let go of my hand. Sarah and I started looking around, trying to understand how the center worked. Volunteers were handing out food, blankets, and toys for children. People were standing in line for warm tea and sandwiches. Representatives of the Red Cross spoke from a stage in the center of the room, telling them about the next steps and the possibility of receiving financial assistance. Sarah sighed. I never thought I would be in this situation. Everything we've built over the years burned down overnight. I squeezed her hand. We'll get through this. The main thing is that we are all together. We have children, and we have to hold on for them. We didn't think we would see Keanu again. But around noon he appeared in the center, carrying boxes of humanitarian aid. He was immediately in the spotlight, but he looked like it came completely natural to him. He worked with the volunteers, distributing food and water, and helping those who needed extra support. When he noticed us, he immediately came over. How are you doing here? Is everything okay? He asked. Thank you for everything, Sarah replied. We don't know what we would have done without you. He smiled. I'm just doing what I have to do. If you need anything, let me know. After he handed out the aid, Keanu stayed at the center for several hours talking to people. Sarah and I also had the opportunity to talk to him. He asked about our home, what we do, and what we plan to do next. It was amazing how naturally he spoke, as if he was just another evacuee and not a famous actor. I shared my fears with him. I don't know how we will start all over again. We lost everything, our house and savings. He put his hand on my shoulder. You are not alone. You are stronger than you think. And now the most important thing is your family. Everything else can be restored. Lily and Tommy, like other children, were scared and confused. The center set up a small playground for them, where they could play and take their minds off what was happening. Keanu went there with us and spent some time with the children. He even played with Lily, who laughed for the first time in days. You know, Lily, he said to her, every toy has a story, and your teddy bear is now a hero who has had a great adventure with you. These words seemed to calm her down. She hugged the bear tightly and said, Then I will never leave him. In the evening of the same day, Keanu organized an impromptu evening of socializing for the people at the center. He arranged for volunteers to set up a few tables in the dining room where people could gather and share their stories. We all sat at one of these tables, listening to the stories of other families. One woman told us how she lost her house, but saved her beloved cat. Another man shared how his neighbors helped him save his grandmother. These stories made us all realize that despite our losses, we are not alone. Keanu ended the evening with the words, We are all going through a difficult time right now, but remember that together we can overcome any difficulties. Each of you is a source of strength for the others. When we went to bed that night, I felt something I hadn't felt in days, hope. Thanks to Keanu and the people around us, I began to believe that we could survive this tragedy and build a new life. Sarah said, It's strange, but I feel safe in this center for the first time in days. Me too, I replied, holding her hand. And I know we can get through this together. That day was the beginning of a new chapter for us. A chapter where kindness, support, and humanity were the main characters. The next morning we woke up at the evacuation center with mixed feelings. The sun was rising over Los Angeles, and the smoke screen hanging over the city began to dissipate a little. It was like a glimmer of light after a dark night. But despite this, the feeling of uncertainty remained. We knew we had lost our home and had no idea what our future would look like. Early in the morning, one of the volunteers came to us and said that today we would meet with representatives of the fund set up to help the victims. She added that Keanu Reeves himself would be coming to the center again to support people and share news about possible help. He's coming back? Sarah asked in surprise. Yes, he's done a lot for this foundation, and it seems like he's not going to stop, the volunteer replied. This news lifted our spirits a bit. We were grateful for everything he had done for us, and we were curious to hear what other plans he had. Closer to noon, people began to gather in the main hall of the center. Representatives of the Rebuild LA Foundation stood on the stage, and Keanu stood next to them. He looked calm and focused, dressed in a simple sweater and jeans like everyone else around him. His simplicity won hearts even more. "Good afternoon, everyone," he began. "I know these days have been difficult for each of you. You have lost not only your homes, but also your sense of security. But I want you to know that you are not alone. We are here to help you rebuild your lives." He spoke about how the foundation has already begun working to provide victims with temporary housing, humanitarian aid, and resources for recovery. Keanu also announced that each family will be able to receive financial support to cover their immediate needs. After the meeting, Keanu came up to people, listened to their stories, and asked how else he could help. When he got to us, I thanked him for what he had done for our family. Sarah told me how much that teddy bear meant to Lily, and Tommy, although he was shy, asked for his autograph. "Your story is a reminder of why we do what we do," he told us. "I see how important it is for every family to feel safe again, and I promise that we will do everything we can to make that happen." The same day, we received news that changed our plans. The representative of the foundation said that they had found temporary housing for our family, a small house in the suburbs, which was provided by one of the partner organizations. It was a real surprise. When we first saw the house, Sarah burst into tears. It was a small but cozy place with everything you need for life. There were beds for the children, a kitchen, and even a small yard where Lily immediately started playing with her new teddy bear. We felt like we could start over again. In the evening, before we left the center, we met with Keanu again. We thanked him for everything he had done. He said, "Don't thank me. Thank the people who work at the foundation and help you every day. And also thank yourselves for sticking together and supporting each other." These words stayed with us. They reminded us that even in the most difficult situations, we have the strength to move forward. When we went to bed in the new house, I felt real peace for the first time in days. The children were sleeping peacefully in their beds, and Sarah sat next to me looking through our rescued family photos. We knew that there was still a lot of work to be done, but this day was a symbol of a new beginning for us. It was not just a day of help. It was the day we realized that humanity and compassion can change lives. And we will always be grateful to the person who came to us in the darkest time and gave us hope. When we moved into our new temporary home, it seemed like the first step to getting back to normal. Although the place was small and simple, we felt like we had a home again. It was important that the children could now sleep in their own beds, and Sarah and I began to make plans for the future. The next day, we started to organize our new life. Sarah took care of the kitchen, trying to make the new home more comfortable, and I helped the children unpack their belongings. Tommy was putting his books on a small shelf provided by the volunteers, and Lily immediately decided to draw a picture for her room. Her drawing of the sun rising over a green hill became a symbol of our belief in a better future. We also decided to help other families who had survived the tragedy. Sarah joined a group of volunteers who organized food and clothing distribution in evacuation centers. I joined the team that helped to clear the burned-out areas to prepare the way for the construction of new homes. One day, while we were working in the yard, clearing a place for a small garden, a car pulled up to our house. At first, I thought it was another volunteer, but when the door opened, Keanu got out of the car. We were shocked and touched to see him again. He brought with him boxes of food, toys for the children, and even some new tools for the yard work. "I thought you might need this," he said, smiling. The children immediately ran up to him, and Lily showed him her drawing. He looked at it carefully and said, "This is wonderful. Can I keep a copy? It will remind me how important it is to stay strong." We invited him for coffee, and he stayed with us for a while. We talked about our lives, the challenges we had to overcome, and how many people were able to find strength through his support. Keanu also told us more about his foundation and plans for the future. He explained that his goal is not only to rebuild homes, but also to build resilient communities that can face future challenges. His words inspired me to get even more involved. Now I was not just helping with physical labor, but also started participating in volunteer meetings where ideas for recovery were discussed. One of the projects I decided to take part in was planting trees in the burned areas. It was not just about ecology, it was about hope. We planted trees knowing that they would grow and become a symbol of a new beginning for future generations. Our new neighborhood has become a true example of unity. People who had lost everything came together to help each other. We shared what we had, supported each other morally and physically. Sarah organized small meetings for women who wanted to talk about their fears and experiences, and I helped men create joint projects to rebuild infrastructure. One day, together with the neighbors, we decided to organize a small party for the children. It was an impromptu picnic in the park where we played games, sang songs, and just enjoyed being together. Keanu found out about it and came too, bringing gifts for the children and participating in our games. His simplicity and sincerity made him not just a guest, but a part of our community. Every day was a challenge for us, but also a reminder that we are not alone. Thanks to the support of people like Keanu and the unity of our community, we began to believe that we could rebuild not only our homes, but our lives. That day ended on a warm evening as we sat in our new yard looking up at the starry sky. Lily fell asleep holding her teddy bear, and Tommy sat next to us, talking about his plans to become an architect so he could help build homes for others. "We'll make it," I told Sarah. "Because of people like Keanu, and because we're sticking together, we're going to be okay." This day was not just another day after the tragedy. It was the day we realized that even after the darkest of times, there is always room for light and hope. After a few weeks in our new home, our lives began to gradually take on new shape. Not only did we try to resume our daily routine, but we also felt a renewed faith in the future. Every day was filled with effort, from working in the yard to helping our neighbors who were also rebuilding their lives. One day, we received an invitation to a community event in our neighborhood organized by the Keanu Reeves Foundation. It was an evening of gratitude to all those who participated in the rebuilding of the neighborhood. We knew that this was not just a meeting, but an opportunity to see again those who had become our support in the darkest times. The event was held in the restored park, where until recently there were only burnt trees. Now there were young saplings that we planted together with volunteers. Local residents spoke on stage to thank us for our support. Keanu was one of the speakers. His speech was simple but profound. This tragedy has shown us how important it is to be there for each other. You are all the heroes of this story. Your efforts, your strength, and your faith have become the basis for the revival of this neighborhood. Thank you for allowing me to be a part of this journey. After the speech, Keanu came up to us. He looked as simple and sincere as ever. We thanked him for everything he had done for our family. Sarah couldn't hold back her tears as she told us how much his support meant to us. Tommy gave him his new painting, in which he had drawn our new house and the little tree Lily had planted. "This is for you," Tommy said. "You helped us believe that everything will be okay again." Keanu took the picture and smiled. "Thank you, Tommy. This will remind me why it's important to help. You all inspire me." The event ended on a warm evening when everyone gathered around a big fire. We sang songs, shared stories, and made plans for the future. Keanu said that his foundation will continue to work to help as many people as possible. His words were full of sincerity and determination. This is just the beginning. Together we can do more. Together we can build a world where everyone feels supported and loved. When we returned home after the event, I sat in the yard and looked up at the starry sky. Sarah sat next to me, holding my hand, and the children were already asleep in their rooms. We felt a peace that we hadn't experienced in a long time. It was a new beginning not just for our family, but for the entire community. We knew that there were still many challenges ahead, but we also knew that we would never be alone again. The humanity and kindness we saw during this tragedy became our greatest treasure. And although we didn't see Keanu as often anymore, his influence has stayed with us forever. Not only did he help us rebuild our home, but he gave us faith that even in the darkest of times there is always room for light.